fraudulent petitioners on Skid Row are now paying the homeless to forge names, forge addresses, and forge signatures of registered voters.
So do you want to sign? Okay. The first one.
I'm Joseph Albright. Okay.
The first name?
Joseph Albright.
If you look at the trend of Nithya Raman, her trend pattern in the first, 5 days of the election should yield her in a momentum and a pattern consistent with voter turnout or voter enthusiasm for her, that she would go up and beyond Karen Bass. But for some reason, her trend spikes and then levels off. I want to tell you guys about the 250 merch. Make sure you go to tatumstore.com, tatumstore.com. I got a couple shirts I want to show you. Happy birthday to the United States of America, 250th birthday. This is our best seller right here, the one I got, which is pretty cool. 250, got the eagle on there, got the stamp. You cannot get this with this quality anywhere else. I'm just letting you know. Everybody that shop on our store, you know what it is. We got 30,000 reviews, 5-star reviews, and almost 200,000 customers. So it's a legitimate store. They got legitimate merch. Get you some of the merch today, tatumstore.com. All right, let's get to Spencer Pratt real quick, because this was crazy. Roll the clip.
Fox News alert, the AP just officially called the L.A. mayor's race. Nithya Raman and Karen Bass will officially advance to the next election. So Spencer Pratt is out after initially coming in second place. U.S. Attorney Bill Asalee sounded the alarm on what California accepts as voter ID. Quote, while allowing first-time voters to register using forms of ID like gym membership cards, employer ID cards, credit or debit cards, prescription drug labels, and insurance cards. This is permitted when a voter fails to provide a Social Security number or driver's license at registration. Asalee says the state's stonewalling a federal audit.
For the last year, Harmeet and I have been demanding California hand over its voter rolls for an audit. We believe the rolls are dirty. We have many examples of people voting who should not have voted. California has refused. They're stonewalling, claiming that it would be a violation of their state privacy laws to hand over the data to the federal government. I mean, it's just a completely ludicrous argument. I mean, they're saying things like Social Security numbers would be a violation of state privacy laws to hand over. We issue the Social Security numbers. It's the federal government that issues.
Yeah, so that tells you right there that they're looking for impropriety. Why wouldn't you want to say, hey, we're going to secure elections, we're going to make sure it's as fair as possible for everybody that's legally able to vote so they can vote and there's no question? Why would they leave it open for this stuff? It's because they know that they have loopholes in place in perpetuity in L.A. to end up swinging the election in a way in which they want the election to go. That's why Californians are moving out. People are frustrated, but they keep electing the same people. How is that so? It was because they make sure the people that they want to win will win. They will make sure a Republican will never win. You find a Republican that will win in this current environment. You won't find one. Why? Is it because the candidate is not good? Is it because the candidate is not an outsider? Is it because the candidate don't represent the people? No, it's because they're cheating. In my opinion, they're cheating. I cannot say it's factual because I don't have the evidence and I have not done an investigation. But just like saying if you see a UFO in the sky, a UAP in the sky, that you can use deductive reasoning and say there's probably a foreign element driving that vehicle that does not exist on planet Earth. You don't have to do an investigation to say, I need to investigate before I say that that's a foreign object, unidentified object. Use 2 and 2. That thing is flying in the sky in propulsion that we don't have the technology to comprehend. So it makes sense that is not of this country or of this world. That's some foreign object that nobody understands what it is. You don't need to do a full investigation to use deductive reasoning. And it's the same thing with the voter fraud stuff. They won't let you investigate. Oh, there's no evidence. They won't let you investigate. So that does not mean that there's not evidence. That means that they are not going to let you find the evidence. There's ways in which they can use the legal system to do fraudulent things in an election. And with that being said, just like when you go and do mail-in votes, you do what they call ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting is legal, but to write somebody else's name and vote for them and then turn it in, that's not legal. But they make it so convoluted that and they won't let anybody investigate it. Therefore, you will never find the evidence. But the people that live in California know better, and they know something is fishy. All right, here's Mike Johnson on his take. Roll the clip.
The president keeps saying that there's election fraud in the California mayor's race. What evidence is there to prove that?
You tell me, Manu. They are counting votes weeks after the election. We have entire nations with huge populations, like India, that can count their votes in 24 to 48 hours.
You're saying it's rigged like the president?
I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm saying it stinks to high heaven, and everybody knows that. Let's remove the appearance of impropriety. Let's have what a concept. Let's have votes on an election the day of the election. That's what many states are able to do. I think California is playing around with this.
But what evidence is there to prove that there was rigged?
Look, some of these efforts are so diabolical and so far upstream that it's impossible to prove. But I think everybody knows instinctively something is wrong here. And that's a concern. We need people to believe in the integrity of our election system. It is critical to maintain a constitutional republic. We're going to keep working to pass the Save America Act because it requires, as you know, proof of citizenship and a photo ID to vote. Those are also 90% plus issues in public opinion, and 70% of Democrats understand that's necessary.
Aren't you all just saying that because you've lost the election because the Republicans did not win in this race? This is why you're hearing that?
I'm saying that every leader of all parties should demand election integrity. And if somebody is opposing that, you should look at their motives. That's what I'm saying.
We'll see later.
I think it's very clear. Like, think about this. It's not a win or a loss for Republicans. Republicans never were in the lead. That's not what people are arguing. Spencer Pratt was never in the league. Karen Bass was in the league from the very beginning. Her trends from the very beginning, same-day votes and mail-in ballots, all trended ahead of Spencer Pratt. So Spencer Pratt didn't win or lose. The question is Nithya Raman. It's not about Karen Bass. It's not about Spencer Pratt. It's about Nithya Raman. How does she end up going from one place to the next place, far exceeding that of the voting rollout from both of the other candidates? It's not necessarily a Spencer Pratt thing. I think Spencer Pratt was kind of the victim of this, but it's really, how did Nithya Raman get to where she's at? All right, J.D. Vance wrote a clip.
How is it that you had, Karen Bass was in first place, Spencer Pratt was in second place, and then this other woman was in third place? You would expect these mail-in ballots to kind of meet that same basic pattern where, number one would get the most votes, number two would get the second most votes, and so on. But somehow we find ourselves in a situation where, number one, they're still receiving ballots, not just counting ballots, Jesse, they're still receiving ballots. And number two, the way that they're coming in just so happens to work out such that the Republican is getting kicked out of the final two, so it's a Democrat versus Democrat runoff. That seems pretty shady to me, especially when you add on top of the fact that in California, you are prohibited from asking for somebody's identification before they vote.
We just found out through the U.S. attorney there that you can register to vote with a gym membership card. How ridiculous is that?
Well, and of course, we know that Gold's Gym would probably hand out a gym membership to anybody who's willing to pay, including, for example, an illegal alien. And we joke about this, Jesse, but that's why these elections don't have the legitimacy they need, is because if you're going to give a card to anybody who's willing to pay $10 a month for a gym membership, then you're not actually going to ensure that person is legitimately able to vote. This is why we have, for example, photo ID to get on an airplane so that airplane rides are safe. This is why we have photo ID to purchase alcohol to ensure that you're the proper age. It's insane that we have a state not only that doesn't ask for your identification, but will throw you in jail if you're an elections official who is asking for identification.
All right, let's talk about this real quick. I want to put this in perspective, okay? I run an e-commerce store, right? If I were to send an email to every person to review a product that is eligible to buy from my store, and then I start letting people review, and I'm not verifying if they even bought anything from the store or not. Don't that make sense? Like if I said there's 40 million people that's eligible to buy from my store. I don't know if they bought from the store or not, but they're eligible to buy. And I send them out a review and say, hey, leave a review on the products that you bought from my store. Now, think about this for a minute. If someone had a vested interest in one of the products of my store being more popular than others, or have a vested interest to make one product look bad, wouldn't you think if you had a vested interest to do that, you would begin to gather or coordinate with people that never bought anything from the store to leave a review that benefits what you want it to benefit. I only send reviews to people who have actually made a purchase that is verifiable through the system in which they purchased, and they have an address, they have all the stuff that they have as a proof text of them actually buying a product from my store. So the reason that I only send it to verified people who have bought a product so they can leave an accurate review. I don't send it out to everybody, hoping that as many of them return back as possible. Just imagine if I did that and I gave 40 million people the option to review whether they bought the product or not, and then I got 2 million 5-star reviews, and you go and do an audit and you look at it and you go, I think he's cooking the numbers. He's not. How do we know these people even bought a product? Brandon Tatum is just paying people to write a review on his page that never bought a product. It's the same thing with voting. These people are eligible to vote. Many of these people don't want to vote. Many of these people are dead, or they don't even live in California. But you send the ballots out. And people that understand the ballots are going out are going to find ballots and do things to the ballots and submit the ballots to get the result that they want. This is exactly why you don't do the things that California is doing. Here's a couple examples of complete fraud that happens in California, and they only need about 10,000 of these people to swing a vote. 10,000 or so. Roll the clip.
Fraudulent petitioners on Skid Row are now paying the homeless to forge names, forge addresses, and forge signatures of registered voters.
So do you want to sign? Okay. The first one.
I'm Joseph Albright. Okay.
The first name?
Joseph Albright. What are you using? Teresa.
No, I'm going to give you your address to write.
Oh, okay.
All the directions?
Okay, yeah.
Robert.
Quickly becoming a widespread scheme that can be found on almost every street corner in downtown Los Angeles.
Now, this has nothing to do with the election, right? They're doing this just because they feel like doing it. And they know it's not going to affect the election now. They're just doing it because they were bored one day and they decide to have a whole bunch of homeless people claim that there are certain people on a voter list to submit their votes for them. And you telling me that has no effect on elections. You telling me they're doing it just for the heck of it. They're doing it to elect another Democrat. They do these things so they can control a margin of votes that can swing the vote in their favor if, in fact, they need to utilize them. All those people that you saw on that list that they were claiming that they were, who do you think they're voting for? They're voting for the person that the people who are curating this want them to vote for. And if that is them being paid to do this for Nithya Raman, then that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to fill it out. And they don't need 2 million, 40 million, 30 million. They just need about 10 million swing. They just need about 40 million, 10 million swing, 10,000 swing. They need 10,000 of these people. That's not that hard. It's 40,000 people or so who are homeless. All you got to do is spend some time through in a couple of elections, getting those people on the books. And now that you got them, their signatures, now that you got them to claim that there's these people that do not exist, you could potentially vote for that same person or vote as that same person in every election. You already have their information. You already have their signatures. You already have everything you need to probably continue to do this year after year, election after election. We're not making this stuff up. This is obvious. Here's another woman that got arrested for doing very similar fraudulent things. Roll the clip.
We're learning more about the professional signature collector who agreed to plead guilty to paying homeless people to register to vote in Los Angeles. Brenda Lee Brown Armstrong admitted she used to pay people on Skid Row $2 or $3 to sign ballot initiative petitions and gave homeless people her address to use so they could register to vote.
Now, because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I can get paid too. I'm paying you guys, I need to get paid. Come on.
Armstrong got paid for every signature she got, and the DOJ says this case is just the tip of the iceberg.
This case is important because it shows how easy it is under California law to corrupt the state's voter rolls and thereby corrupt the state and federal elections administered by the state.
So now the question is how widespread. Those in power would like to say, well, of course there's some fraud, but it's not widespread. The truth is, and I can tell you, having been up there, they have no idea. They have no idea how spread the fraud is because they do nothing to detect it, prevent it, or to prosecute it.
With that being said, let's look at the chart. this is where it gets dicey at. You see a trend from the blue, which is Karen Bass. She's trending ahead of Spencer Pratt, and the trend continues in a reasonable continuation. But then you go down to the next two candidates. It appears that there's a certain trend of Spencer Pratt's election votes from the election day to early voting that they do from January 3rd and 4th all the way to June 5th. But there's a weird thing that happens, is that there's a trend, but it breaks the trend for only one candidate. The course of mail-in and in-person voting has a trend except for one person. And that one person had a significant jump and then began to follow a certain trend. If Nithya Raman's trend was consistent with the trend of Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass, she would have inevitably lost to Spencer Pratt. But there had to be a certain particular point in time after the election where you see Nithya Raman jump in a tremendous way to catch up, that her momentum or her trend would then have her go barely above Spencer Pratt. If you're telling me somebody like Nithya Raman is that popular enough to get that many votes at one time during a certain period of time, why wouldn't that trend continue? If you look at the trend of Nithya Raman, her trend pattern in the first, 5 days of the election should yield her in a momentum and a pattern consistent with voter turnout or voter enthusiasm for her, that she would go up and beyond Karen Bass. But for some reason, her trend spikes and then levels off around the same period that will lead her to inevitably beat Spencer Pratt by a small margin. Now, you could say that this is by happenstance. Well, why does it always happen at the behest of Republicans? Why couldn't Nithya Raman overcome Karen Bass with the enthusiasm of these mail-in people? They don't need that to happen. They just need to interject enough votes so she can get out or oust Spencer Pratt, so there's two Democrats. Therefore, a Democrat will win inevitably no matter what. I believe that they believe Spencer Pratt was going to be highly competitive in the general election because he had a lot more time to campaign, a lot more time to go after a very unpopular, when I say very unpopular, trending in the unpopular state is Karen Bass. Now, let's see if we're proven right when it comes to the general election. Let's see how these elections go. Based on Nithya Raman's increase in mail-in ballots and enthusiasm for somebody who people don't even know her name, she should end up inevitably winning the general election. Let's see how that goes.